Okay, I decided to go ahead and do the long shelf life foods, uh, but not. Most of these will only be up to like 3 years, but some of these will be even longer. And instead of doing them in different videos, I'm going to do them all at once. Uh, the first one is bouillon cubes. They can last up to 2 years. Just keep them in a dark pantry. Um, and you can use the cubes if you don't have. In fact, I would recommend it because containers of broth are usually a lot. Well, I don't think they last as long as bouillon cubes, just to be honest. But bouillon cubes will last a long time. And canned fruits, vegetables, and beans are, and they'll last a few years. Now, we're talking survivalist thing, not how they'll taste. Um, Usually that goes away after a couple of years. So, if it's dented, bulging, if the can is dented or bulging um, or rusted, don't eat them. You could get botulism and die, and that's not the point of eating stuff to survive, right? Um, Now that they'll taste best if they're within date, but they can last about 6 months past their prime without going bad or hurting. Now keep in mind this is a survival situation. So try and rotate your food as long as you're not in a survival situation at the moment. Um, that way you're always eating up the older stuff. The you know, I always buy stuff before I need it. One thing is I'm forgetful. Mom was too. She'd say I need to get milk, for example. So she'd get it before she ran out, because if she didn't, she'd forget. So she'd, you know, when there were 7 of us, she'd buy a gallon or 2 at a time. When there was just me and my stepdad and her, we would buy half a gallon to a gallon at a time. And when we had used up most of it, then then we would go get more. Um, Cornstarch, I don't really use a lot of it, but apparently it'll last forever. Keep it in its original container, stored in a cool, dark place away from moisture. Now, if it comes in contact with moisture or water, it'll start dissolving right then. So keep it dry, okay? And as long as you keep it dry, it'll stay indefinitely. It's a natural thickening agent, so it can be used on a lot of stuff. I'd say my sister probably uses more of it than I do, and I have used it in the past. And well, I don't know if her mom did or not, but my mom, her stepmom, her mom died when she was young. Anyway, but she called her mom too, because she pretty much raised her from a young age. But anyway, I'm sure Mom used it a lot. Not so much when there was just 2 or 3 of us, but sorry about that. Dark chocolate will last up to 2 years. Just make sure and keep it at room temperature, stored in its original packaging, or wrapped tightly once open. So wrap it tightly in something. If you've opened it before. Um, Dark chocolate keeps the longest. It's also my least favorite, but you could make a lot of stuff with it. Um, so, and chocolate's chocolate. So I would be happy with dark chocolate if I had a real hankering for chocolate and it was the only thing available. Um, Dried beans, lentils, and legumes forever. Now, they will be harder to cook. You'll have to cook them a little longer if you've had them for like 5 years or something. And they won't taste as good as fresh beans, but you won't die, uh, which is the point of this. And honestly, as long as you use them within a couple of years, they have a very long shelf life to begin with. Um, Especially like pinto beans and kidney beans and stuff like that. I'm not as familiar with lentils, although I have eaten them. Dried fruits, raisins, dried cranberries, and you get the idea. A year plus. I can't really eat a lot of dried fruit because it aggravates my gout, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's most people with gout. But I will say it aggravates mine personally. So for y'all, I will tell you about it. And I didn't know this part. You can extend their shelf life for another 6 months by popping them in the refrigerator after putting them in a sealed package or a tightly sealed container. Because honestly, we never got dried fruit a lot. If we did, it was usually to make some kind of dessert or something. Dried pasta will last up to 3 years. Keep it in an airtight container. Honestly, what I usually do, and I use it up in less time than this, is I just keep the box unopened. And then when I finally go to open it to like make spaghetti or whatever, what I do is especially for spaghetti noodles, I put them in the refrigerator, and that keeps anything from getting to them. And then I use them quickly for other stuff, but it keeps in there for at least a few weeks. But if you keep it in an airtight container, including the box that it came in, it should last a long, long time. But now I don't get the cardboard box. Usually I get the plastic bag container. So cardboard box might be different. There might be a little bit of air that gets to it. So you might want to research that. Grains, will last up to 8 years. Now, white rice will last way longer than like brown rice or something, so keep that in mind. But here's some of the longest lasting grains, and these are all to be kept in a sealed container in the pantry. Quinoa, I hope I'm saying that right. I've heard it pronounced quinoa like in countries that it originated, but then around here I think it's pronounced quinoa. So however you pronounce it, I don't know. Barley, rye, flax, millet, grits. I hate grits, but we'll move on. If you will, if some of this is stuff you like I love quinoa. Buying it in bulk is a worthwhile investment. I have some right now, and I eat some every once in a while, and I know that it won't go bad for a long, long time. You keep them stored in an airtight container, and that's basically all you need to know. Instant coffee. As long as you keep it dry and you keep it in its original container, if it's not been opened, it'll last 25 years. In the pantry, it says longer in the freezer. I've heard of people having it for many years. I don't know if it was that long or not, but point is this will keep you going in the zombie apocalypse. And honestly, I prefer instant coffee to ground coffee. Gems and jellies will last 2 years if unopened. Once opened, they only last 6 months. You store unopened gems and jellies in the pantry. Once you pop the jar open, keep it in the fridge. And you can actually make your own preservatives. I used to do it. You can can them. And I actually used less sugar. That's one of the reasons why I made it myself. And jerky will last up to 2 years. Keep it sealed in a dark pantry. And this is about store-bought, but honestly, a lot of my family members make it or have made it in the past. But homemade should be eaten a lot quicker. They only last a few weeks because they don't have as many preservatives in it. But there are ways that you can make it to where that'll last for a few months up to a year. I don't know because one of my brothers does it. I'm not sure exactly what he does, but I know that there are ways of. So if you make your own jerky or are thinking about it, you might want to research that or Gmail me, and I will find out, and I'll make a video about it. Liquors, if unopened, will last forever. Even after opening, you're supposed to keep them room temperature unless they're vermouth or Irish cream. You don't have, with hard liquors, there's so much alcohol, you don't have to worry so much about bacteria growth. I keep them in the refrigerator or in the freezer because, fun fact, and I know at a cold enough temperature alcohol will freeze, but you know, for all intents and purposes, you put it in the freezer, it's probably not going to freeze because you probably don't have it that low because it'd have to be pretty low. I don't drink a lot. I never have, but and you know, I've been known to have a little wine for the stomach's sake, as the Bible says, or you know, drink use it as cough syrup. But for one thing, I'm not really supposed to drink with COPD and such. So, maple syrup, forever if unopened, up to a year once you open the bottle. Store unopened bottles of syrup in the cupboard. Open bottles should be kept in the fridge. Molasses, up to 10 years if unopened, up to 5 years once opened. You can keep your molasses in the pantry with the rest of your baking supplies. Make sure the cap is on top. But personally, once I've used it, I put it in the refrigerator. most things I do just to be safe. Oats, up to 2 years. Um, Keep them in an airtight container. I usually buy big containers that are already in an airtight container instead of the cardboard container, but because I buy it in bulk and then I put it in the tubs or something, unless it's the flavored oatmeal, and I usually eat it up pretty quick. Oils like vegetable, canola oil, all the different cooking oils, the olive oil, peanut oil. Uh, if you keep them in a dark place and out of direct sunlight and heat, they'll last up to 2 years. However, once you open them, they'll only last a few months. But if they're not opened and you keep them out of the sunlight and heat, they'll last up to 2 years. Packaged tuna, up to 5 years. Keep it in the pantry or cupboard. I always eat it up for them. The sealed packets, which is usually what I get, they'll last for up to 3 years. Again, I eat it before then, but I always have a lot of tuna on hand because I'm supposed to eat it, and I like it. Now I make tuna salad, and I've tried it other ways, but I usually make tuna salad. But always have a few cans if you can, or a few packets. Pickles and pickled vegetables, they'll last 4 years if unopened, 1 year if opened and refrigerated. If you've done the pickling yourself, they can last up to 2 years. Unless you do them a special way, and there are websites that tell you how to do them. And I know this because a lot of my family they've been canning for years. Some of them's been canning longer than I've been alive, and I'm in my 40s. Popcorn, it'll last forever. Keep it in a sealed container in the cupboard. Just keep in mind, this ain't like microwave popcorn and stuff. This is the kernels. So, powdered Jello will last forever. Keep boxed gelatin in the pantry or cupboard. I have plenty of Jello, both sweet and the sugar-free version. Powdered milk will last up to 20 years. It's actually something I need to buy. I don't keep it on hand as often as I used to, but it'll keep good as long as you keep it away from moisture and in a cool, dark place and in an airtight container. Ramen noodles will last up to 2 years. Keep them in the package at room temperature. I always have at least a few packs of ramen noodles. They're not the healthiest, but if you're going through Armageddon, you'll be glad to have it. Raw honey will last forever. Keep it tight in a tight sealed jar to keep out the humidity. Now, it has to be the real deal to keep for this long. So no fake honeys. Won't last as long. Rice will last up to 30 years. Now this is, white rice. This ain't brown rice, because brown rice has more oil and other stuff in it that makes it spoil much faster. But as long as you keep it in an airtight container in a cool, dry place, white rice jasmine rice, wild rice, basmati rice, things like that will last almost indefinitely. I mean, it says 30 years. Salt is forever. Just keep it in a cool, dark, dry place where temperatures remain constant. Soy sauce, forever if unopened. Mostly because it's got so much salt in it, it keeps it very well preserved. Once it's opened, as long as you kept it in the refrigerator, up to 2 to 3 years, which is still a long time. Whole spices and herbs will last up to 4 years if they're stored in airtight jars in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. Sugar will last forever as long as this is white sugar. Keep white sugar in a dry, dark place in an airtight container as best. Brown sugar also keeps for a long time since both sugar and molasses have long shelf lives. However, brown sugar is apt to turn hard after a while. To soften brown sugar, you can use a slice of bread or a marshmallow slipped into the container overnight. I've never tried that, but I've heard people talk about it. But you can always put a little bit of it in the microwave, and that'll soften it up too. And there's ways to keep it soft too. Airtight container will usually keep it soft. Sliced bread will keep it from drying out, which will keep it soft. Marshmallows will do the same. Apples. There's a lot of different ways. You'll just have to research it. Keep it away from moisture. But if you need it to, if it's hardened, you can sprinkle a few drops of water, and it'll take a few days, but it'll soften it up. But it can also cause it to dissolve, so you'll have to watch it. Food processor will also work, microwave, but it's just for a few seconds. It's the method I always use. I place a wet paper towel with sugar and microwave for 20 seconds, and it works like a charm. Tea, up to 2 years in an airtight container. I use loose leaf tea mostly, but I do have tea bags. They both have a long stay, a long shelf life. Just keep them in sealed containers for the best results and take them out when you're ready for these. I buy from Upton Tea Imports, and they have it in an airtight container, and it keeps the sunlight and stuff out of it. And I'm sure a lot of other companies do too, but they're the only ones I've ever ordered from. Tomato sauce, canned or jarred, will last up to 2 years if unopened. Keep unopened jars and cans of tomato sauce in the cupboard. Pasta sauce will also last a long time. Vanilla extract will last forever. Keep it in a dark container away from sunlight, heat sources, and moisture. It's basically cured vanilla beans soaked in alcohol, so the alcohol keeps acts as a preservative. The imitation vanilla, which is what I have, and what most people have, will expire after just 2 to 4 years. But some people do use the pure vanilla extract, but it's too expensive for me, and I think they both taste good. So, and also you can make your own. I could do a video on that one day. Vinegar will last forever. if you keep it in its original airtight container in a cool, dry place away from heat sources. So there's a lot of things that will last over a year. And what I'll do is I rename everything now on how long it lasts. This part will be going by the years. 0 to 1 years, dried fruit. 1 to 3 years, bouillon, dark chocolate, dried pasta, jerky, oats, oils, ramen noodles, tea, tomato sauce, jams and jellies unopened. 3 to 5 years is canned tuna, pickles unopened, and spices. 5 to 10 years is canned fruit, grains, and molasses. 10 plus years is instant coffee, powdered milk, and rice. Forever is cornstarch, dried beans, and lentils and legumes, liquor, maple syrup, popcorn, powdered jello, raw honey, salt, soy sauce, sugar, vanilla extract, vinegar. So there's, I talked the last video about this topic anyway. It's been a few videos ago now. But yeah, some things will go bad pretty quickly. So they're great for pantry you're living out of. So like, it's good to have a few on hand depending on the size of your family, but like flour will go bad fairly quickly. That's why flour was not on this list. You know what I'm saying? But if you have a family of 8, then the 20 pound thing of flour will probably last you a long time. Will probably be used fairly quickly, whereas it'd be a lifetime supply for me, just the one person. But hopefully you found this interesting and helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.